You're listening to the Night Demon Network. Go to nightdemon.net/subscriber to unlock more exclusive content.
Hello and welcome to the Night Demon Heavy Metal Podcast. I'm your host, Nesbitt, and today we have part 2 of Jarvis Leatherby's interview with Christopher Williams, drummer of Accept. It's a great conversation. Hope you enjoy.
So Nashville, there is a live music scene. But I was always under the impression that people came here to work in the studios, to be session musicians, and they played live gigs at night to supplement their income and to just network and meet other people and to keep their chops up. I'm probably wrong about that then.
It happens, but it's rare, because that is, especially nowadays, it's rare, but even when I moved in here and there were still regular sessions happening all the time, man, that's the good old boys club. Like, you got to know somebody
right.
that has complete faith in you to bring you into that world.
Right.
And then you got to stay at that level. And I knew those people, but I also didn't want to be a session guy.
Right.
Because to break it down in simplest form, there's 3 cliques. There's the session people or the studio scene. There's the live guys and gals. Then there's the songwriters.
Right.
And the songwriters bring the song, the session people play on it, they take out their live band and tour it.
Right.
That's the simplest way.
Right.
And a lot of times in Nashville, just because that person is playing with that country guy doesn't mean that's them on the record.
Of course.
A lot of times it's like so incestual. This drummer plays on that artist's record while that artist plays on the other drummer's artist album.
Right.
They swap, they crisscross. But maybe you can pull it off live, but creatively you don't have that in you. Or your touch, or your feel, or maybe it's your hang in the studio.
Yeah.
Or, there's so many different
I think there was maybe
variables.
A lot of stuff like that before our time. When you didn't have the home studio, when there were actually like demo studios, there was like commercial studios, stuff where like you could just be...
You were working 4 blocks a day.
Yeah, but there was people that moved to Nashville from out west that just said, I want to be a country western singer. I wrote a song and with no experience, and they could just walk into a commercial studio and say, I want to cut a song today. You know? Yeah. And then you
still can, but it's not as easy as it used to be. Now you got to shop around, and chances are you're doing it at somebody's house.
Right, of course.
Which is cool if their house has been converted.
Right.
Or a room or something. But it's the idea of going in and spending 3 hours on one song for your demo, you can still do it, but it's few and far between.
Course. Well, that's some good knowledge, man. That's good to know.
Nowadays,
because I always wondered about that, if it was more based on the studio scene, you know. But now we have so many people moving into Nashville, and so much of the music industry, it's even the heavy metal industry, like they're moving here. Their offices are here now, and you know, there's still a lot of publishing houses and stuff. So it's not just country.
A lot of the younger kids are moving here just to play Broadway. That's what they've seen on TikTok.
But you have to play
and
country
Instagram
on Broadway, right?
No.
Really?
Not anymore.
But the line is blurred. The line is blurred.
No, now it's hard rock and metal.
Come on.
I've got friends down there that a band called Hand Over Face that I sat in with last night and the night before. Last night we played Master of Puppets.
Come on.
Top to bottom, shred fest. Knocked it out of the park.
What club was that at?
Bon Jovi's.
Shit, are you serious?
Dead serious.
I drove by there last night.
Dead serious.
Fucking just had. I saw the Zombieland on the street, and I was like, "There's no way I'm going into this shit."
We played. You know, they do a lot of like hair metal, 70s rock, 80s rock, like. That's their stuff, and
I mean, I could understand there's a crossover now. Like, okay, like for me, I could see, you know, you could play, you know, a Bon Jovi 80s tune, and now that's what country artists are covering anyway, right?
Yeah.
And like, you know, Beyonce is a country artist now. Darius Rucker is a country artist now. Bret Michaels is a country artist. Like, I get it.
But the best part is then Dolly puts out a rock record.
Yeah, right?
I love it.
Well, Pat Boone did it first.
Yeah,
But those were, but you know what I mean? Like, yeah, it's just wild, man. But that's pretty cool. Okay,
Dude,
I didn't know you played Master of Puppets down on Broadway.
The guitar player with that band, his name is Diego Latorre. He's from Bogota, Colombia.
I was just there a couple weeks ago.
And came here just for music. That dude plays his ass off. Great singer, too. But, I mean, dude, we've played Holy Wars down there at Honky Tonk Central.
Serious?
In the past.
How do people respond to that?
Usually throw in like $50 and request it.
Come on,
that's
dude.
Usually,
really?
That's how puppets happen. Some guy came up and threw a 50 on the stage and said, "Play your favorite Metallica song."
All right, listen. Here's what's going to happen.
And I'm throwing out all this stuff off of the Justice album. It's the bass player's like, if you're playing anything from Justice, I'm out.
Well,
you don't need me anyway. But yeah, it was like, you want to do Creeping Death, or are we doing this one or that one, or Hit the Lights? And I was like,
okay,
let's just do puppets.
Here's the deal.
When I played Battery the night before,
at some point down the road, when we both have time off the road, I'm gonna fucking come here and do and just be available for gigs, and I will be the bass player. Okay, if we're doing this kind of shit.
Yeah.
I mean, fuck.
That's a unique band.
No, I
that
get
does
it.
that. But there's others. Monica Llewellyn, has a full-on rock show where there's Skid Row and all kinds of stuff. That's the kind of stuff they're playing down there now. It's crazy compared to when I moved here, and they're like, I knew a lot of 90s country because I grew up.
So it's not all outlaw country. It's like you've got Garth Brooks and Brooks and Dunn. And
now Robert's Western World, that's the only place that still plays genuine country.
Right.
Nothing past the 1970s.
Okay.
There's a fiddle player, lap steel, and an upright bass on that stage.
Okay.
Every night.
Okay.
And that's where the pickers go.
Right.
There's a guitar player that's just a badass, J.D. Simo.
Okay.
He and I moved to Nashville right around the same time. I think we're about the same age. And my high school guitarist was in town thinking about moving here. And I took him to see J.D. with the Don Kelly Band at Roberts. It broke him because he moved home a couple months later. But J.D. was the kind of player that he moved to town, immediately got the Don Kelly gig, and then he was off doing sessions.
Right.
Because that's, like the feeder core,
of
so
course.
to speak. But
yeah, sometimes you see, I saw a guy in Tulsa last week just at a bar playing to nobody, but he made me want to quit music. He was like, just so incredible and innovative too. And I was just, and he didn't give a fuck, and I was just like, why didn't I just do that,
Yeah.
But anyway, so
But yeah, it's a very different town than it used to be.
Yeah.
You know, it used to be you're playing Clint Black and Kathy Mattea.
well, let's see how it
Dixie
evolves.
Chicks
Let's see how it evolves because, like I said, a lot of the industry is coming here more behind the scenes. You know, country music is the face of it, right?
Yeah.
But what happens is the more that power players come to this town, we're going to start seeing something burgeoning on the underground outskirts, and we're going to have a whole different set. You know, there's the Vegas Strip, and then there's Fremont Street, and then there's, you know what I mean? Like it's I think it's just going to change. Something new is going to have to happen.
There are a lot of heavy hitters here.
Yeah.
I used to play Bourbon Street with Derek St. Holmes all the time.
That's insane.
And that's the voice
insane.
of the Ted Nugent band.
I know.
Stranglehold.
I know.
That's him.
That's it. That's
hey, baby.
It. I know.
You know, Doctor, all that. Like,
so we've been spending a lot of time on this, which is good because this is a lot of things that people don't know about you, you know, and that's what the point of this interview is. But we have to talk about.
By the way, Nashville's full. Our roadways can't take it.
Yeah, California's full too, so move to Nashville. Yeah,
move to Ohio.
Yeah, Ohio's very affordable still.
Move to Hoboken, New Jersey.
Yeah, well, I don't know about that. Yeah, I don't know about that. I don't know. Frank's people are still there. I don't know, man.
Yeah, Hoboken. Well, New Jersey's the only state where they tax you to leave.
Yeah, the garbage state. Yeah,
it's actually nice once you get past all the crap across the river.
Yeah. Well,
You get into the suburbs. It's cool. That's where Mark lives. Neshannock Station.
yeah, but he's like from out that way.
Yeah, I mean, he grew up coast and all that
We're
stuff.
speaking of Mark Tornillo from Accept and TT Quick.
TT Quick.
So, how you get the Accept gig? What's going on?
So 2014, some friends of mine and bandmates started doing this thing on Tuesday nights. It was just 4 weeks, just the month of April, at this little Irish pub called Dan McGinnis. And Dan McGinnis had a patio that was covered, but open air, not closed in anything. And they wanted to do a residency for 4 weeks, so they called it with 2 E's, Rock and Roll Residency.
Okay.
It was Phil Schaus, Jeremy Asbrock, Jared Pope on drums. I think Jared started on the gig. And Chuck Garrick from Alice Cooper's band.
Nice.
And I think, was he in Brother Kane too?
He was in Brother Kane?
Because Jared played in Brother Kane.
He was in Brother Kane.
So maybe
I saw them in 1995 at Irvine Meadows opening for Van Halen and Skid Row. They were the first band on that. And my old buddy Kent Sorrell from Birmingham, Alabama, had a management company, Elevation Group. They worked with Bill Graham. He was their manager at that time. So and they're back now. Brother Kane is back.
Yeah. Jared's out playing with him. But so that was the house band, and it started becoming this scene. You know, they did the first month. It went great because they're playing deep cuts and B-sides and Midnight Moses by Sensational Alex Harvey Band.
Oh, dude, yeah.
You know, they're not playing your standard radio hits.
Right.
So that became the place Tuesday nights, and all the rock community started to form, and they extended it indefinitely for years. Matter of fact, if you're in town Friday, they're doing one. They don't do them every week now.
Right.
But maybe once or twice a year now they'll do them. But
no, I'm out. I'm going to New York. I just came here to talk to you. So.
Oh, punkin. But so I started hanging there because those are my dudes and that's our scene and all that. And then Peter Baltus started showing up.
So Peter, the original bass player of Accept, he's living in Nashville. And Wolf's living in Nashville, right? I mean,
Peter's in Florida now,
right? But these guys were living out here for quite a while.
Wolf's been in Nashville, I think, since early '90s.
Right. So German guys coming to the country. Nashville, right? You know what I mean? You come from, and the creators of the Teutonic sound. I mean, it's like a Swiss watch or a German watch, I should say, right?
Yeah.
it's everything is precise, everything is perfect. There's the old joke: how many guitar players does it take to screw in a light bulb? Like and you could say any number. It's like what is it? 12, like 1 to do it and 11 to tell you they can do it better.
Yeah.
How many German guitar players does it take to screw in a light bulb? 1, because he does it perfect the first time. Right.
Well,
right? Is that
how
it?
many
Right?
Germans does it take to screw in a light bulb? 1, because they're incredibly efficient and they have no sense of humor. That's the version that I know.
It's funny because, we're so. I mean, you and I work with Germans daily, and without Germany, we probably wouldn't have a career.
Yeah.
But it's funny because I was asking a guy at the label the other day. I said, "Are there any German stand-up comedians?" And he's like, "Yeah, there's a couple." And I was like, I just couldn't
get any
picture.
laughs?
Yeah, I couldn't. I went to Berlin to a stand-up comedy show, and they were all Americans.
Oh Lord!
It was on a boat. They were all Americans.
Makes me wonder if they got most of the jokes for the inside.
I think a lot of tourists kind of went in there. And,
okay.
Yeah. So anyway, so Peter Baltus. So Peter's on the scene, right? It's kind of funny because you could. Here's the thing: you could easily move to Tennessee. You can move to Nashville and have a nice house, especially at that time. That's affordable and never leave. You really don't have to go anywhere. You don't have to go to a club, right? But so he's doing this. He's on the circuit. I mean, he's not gigging with other bands, right?
They were over in Bellevue, which is like probably 20, maybe 30 minutes east of town, or west of town, rather. Yeah. And I mean, he had his demo studio set up at the house, and he was writing stuff for radio and for placement and all that stuff. And, except we're actively touring, but he was just coming out on Tuesdays, and then eventually his younger son, Sebastian, who's a killer guitar player.
Right, so he's got his own band, right?
Sebastian was coming out and meeting people and, getting the foot in the door, and Peter was meeting the rock scene that he didn't know yet.
Interesting.
And then Wagner would come around, of course, and everybody knows him.
We're talking about Michael Wagner, the famous producer who's actually mixed Master of Puppets, one of the first digital mixes actually in metal, and countless records. Look him up. He's now retired. Yeah, No More Tears, Tooth and Nail,
all the Skid Row
stuff. Yeah, all the Skid Row stuff.
Extreme.
Yeah,
all that. Well, the funny thing with Extreme was on the first record he was brought in to produce, and he went in I guess it was to produce. And Nuno had already done everything.
Right.
And he went in to produce, and the Nuno did not want anybody in there. He's like, I've done it, it's mine, it's done. So they're like, well, we don't trust this kid with this studio and this budget. Hell no. So they send Wagner in. Wagner listens to it and he goes, you don't need me. Tell you what, I'll just come in for like an hour a day and make a log of it, and then I'm out. You're fine. Keep doing what you're doing.
That's great. That's great.
That's the story that I've heard anyway.
And then Rick Rubin was like, "Hey, that's a good idea."
Yeah, exactly. Let artists sort themselves out.
Yeah,
and then
I'll just give them some motivational words, Yeah,
I'll take the paycheck.
Yeah, amazing.
And the points. But yeah, so Peter started hanging out. We were introduced at John Corabi's wedding reception.
John Corabi, who sang for Motley Crue for a brief period.
Played guitar and rap for a little while, too.
That's right.
And Union.
And Union was great. Brent Fitz on drums. He was very instrumental in my youth. He worked at a store called Johnny Guitar in Hollywood, next to the Mesa store. Sold me like my first amp.
Nice.
And he was just like us. He was hustling. He was working at the music store, but keeping his chops up, meeting people, and ended up playing in some pretty
and Bruce Kulick
amazing
was in the
bands.
band.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But so we were introduced, and then we just started talking about jamming sometime, and at some point
jamming what? Like, is he, because at this point, so Accept has done, they've reformed. They've done Blood of the Nations, which was an incredible.
Massive.
Yes. Blind Rage, and then I think Stalingrad.
Stalingrad was it was Blood, Stalingrad, and then Blind Rage.
Right. So that's the point we're at right now, right? Mm-hmm. Because I mean, I think I had seen them.
Blind Rage.
I had seen them at the Saban Theater in Beverly Hills. I think like kind of probably right before this period, and they had that lineup still intact. Mm-hmm. So are they? Is the lineup at this point when you're jamming with Peter? Are they still together or are they looking?
No, they're still going out and touring. Okay. And I think they had just started the
So
Blind
what are you
Rage
jamming with
stuff.
Peter on?
Whatever we were doing at the residency.
Really?
Oh, dude, at one point we got up, Peter did Painkiller with us.
Okay, so he's coming on stage.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, he was jamming at the res.
Okay.
And Wolf came out once or twice, and it was kind of like...
But he didn't play.
No.
Yeah.
It was kind of, hey, you guys ever need a drummer? Ha ha. And then December, they had parted ways with their drummer.
Yeah.
With Stefan Schwartzman, who I've actually, fortunately, gotten to become friends with.
Yeah.
And it was awkward as hell for me when I met him because I felt so bad. I'm like,
yeah,
y'all parted ways, and I'm the guy that stepped into this. But he was super cool with it. He was just like, man, it's a gig. You took a gig. It's cool. We're good. You play great. You're a cool dude. And then we got drunk.
That's
nice.
Awesome. Great. You couldn't ask for a better scenario.
What was it? Rockfest Barcelona.
Okay. Yeah.
And Mark and Stefan Schwartzman and myself are down in the photo pit watching Priest.
Nice.
It was rad.
That's killer.
But, so...
Which featured one of your future bandmates, which we'll talk about.
Exactly. Yeah. So, so they had parted ways with Stefan, and Peter gives me a call, and it's like, hey, man, Mark's going to come to town, do you want to have a jam? And it's like, okay, what's happening? And then, well, we want to do something at the residency while Mark's in town. We think it'd be cool to take him there. And I know he's going to want to get up and sing. And, do you know Balls?
Okay.
Yeah. Do you know Shark? Yeah. All right, well. And then, so Wolf and Peter and Mark got up, and myself. And I think Phil and maybe Jeremy both stayed up there and played guitar as well. And we did Balls and Shark, and there we went. From then on, that was my audition, was on stage.
And that's it.
Not really knowing it was an audition for Accept.
Right.
Because then it was kind of silent afterwards, and I thought nothing of it.
Like, what's the period of time between that and the time you play with them again?
At least a month.
Okay.
It was at least after.
And then you get called, and what's that call like?
Hey, man. So, do you want to talk? Went out to lunch and talked, and, then had like a formal play of songs and jams and stuff. And then it was kind of like another meeting. And then, hey, if you want the gig. And the biggest pain in the ass about it was keeping my mouth shut.
Sure.
Because other people are calling and saying, hey, man, I've got this gig or that gig this summer. And I'm like, I can't really commit. And they're going, you got the Accept gig. And
no way. Oh,
no,
wow.
Man, no, I didn't. We're just buds. We're just buds. My friend Tommy was calling me all the time about, at that point, he's like, come on, man, join Black Shag. Join Black. And I was like, no, dude, I love your band, but I just can't.
Right.
And April something, they put out the press release. And then I called him that day, and I was like, dude, I am so sorry I had to lie to you.
I mean, what the...
For those couple... Like, I'm so sorry, dude. He's like, man, it's cool, I get it, but it had to be hush-hush.
I mean, it's like Mark from Death Angel had to do that recently with this Kerry King gig. His own band for 40 years. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Eloy with Slipknot, you know what I mean? It's like, it's a fine line, you want to... I always thought that, 90% of your success is based on your relationships with people. You know what I mean? Like, you could be great. The best drummers I've ever played with, I won't play with anymore because I just cannot, I can't do the hang. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'd rather have somebody who's just good to hang out with and eager and wanting to get better and get there,
Yeah.
So it's tough, when you're in a situation like that and you don't want to ruin relationships with people by being, not forthright with them. I'm sure people will understand, but it's hard. The longer those things get dragged out,
It sucks.
That
was really, really hard because, I don't even think I told my mother.
Right.
I signed an NDA and all this stuff, and this is not getting leaked.
Sure.
Welcome to the family, but keep your mouth shut.
Sure.
Because it had been announced already that they had parted and everything.
Yeah.
All that was good, but it's not going to get leaked who the new person is, because then we're doing photos.
Yep.
We did a teaser video for the song "Fall of the Empire."
Right.
Uwe and I met for the first time. Like, his daughter had been born maybe 3-4 days before we played together.
Right. Yeah.
It was like, "Hey man, good to meet you. Congrats." She's like, what, 3 days old now? Cool.
Nice to meet you.
Thanks
I'm
for
in the
coming.
band. Yeah. Well, that's just a geographical thing because he's in Germany, and that's just the way it goes.
Yeah.
So now you're at a point where you have a gig that is a priority gig. So it's like, hey, I've got something that comes first before all this other side stuff. So you're kind of working around that. So how are you navigating that now? Because, Accept is one of the most legendary metal bands of all time. But given the current climate and just straight up, boredom, not boredom, but you know what I mean? Keeping yourself occupied. You're going to still want to make yourself available to still be in the scene and still play and stuff like that. So, how does that work now?
Basically, if we're not touring, I'm not getting paid, so
yeah.
bills aren't going to pay themselves,
Right?
But I also, as much as I love metal, I never listen to it.
Yeah,
ever.
I feel you.
I used to all the time, but it's kind of like when you clock out from the office, the last thing you want to think about is work.
Plus,
so we come home and I've got, level 42 New World Machine has been on that turntable for weeks, and probably 4 times a week I'll play. I love that album.
Right.
I listen to everything but metal when I'm home because it's work, and I try to play everything but that. I can't tell you how many times I've done tours and come home and then just go sit in with a band and play cross stick on some country western, and it feels so good. That feels equally as good to me as thrashing out double bass.
Right.
Or I had death metal bands years ago blasting.
Right.
And at one point I had a hard rock band that was playing pubs pre-Nashville. Hard rock band that was playing pubs doing covers, and had a group called Our Negative that was like a Fear Factory meets Meshuggah kind of thing.
Okay. Some more technical.
And then I was actually touring with the Booty Band.
Right.
So I had rock, metal meets math metal, and 7-piece funk band with a horn section.
But that's
and
what
I was
you need.
happier.
Yeah.
I was doing all of them.
Yeah.
And my soul was so happy.
Right.
So it's like having a background in so many different types of music growing up, and as a fan of, it might get smacked for saying it, but I love playing stuff like Lady Gaga just as much as double bass.
Sure.
Because as a drummer, the rhythm, the feel, the groove, when you can lay it in there super tight, there's nothing like that, man.
Well, it's definitely a drummer thing because, there's a lot of drummers that love like death metal drumming, but they don't like death metal. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's a drummer thing.
Yeah.
It's like, wow, okay, that's cool. That's a challenge. I want to see if I could build up like my blast beat hand. You know what I mean, right?
Yeah.
So now that you're on a few Accept albums, how much creative input are these guys giving you? Because
it's Wolf's band.
right.
Mark as well.
So do you get like drum machine demos?
No.
Okay.
I mean, sometimes.
Okay, right.
It just depends on who's done the writing.
Right.
Sometimes it might be, a lot of times what'll happen, if they're just doing rough demos, they'll take ISO tracks from the last album and just chop up different grooves or patterns.
Really?
And throw them in there.
I mean, there is a sound to the band.
If you look at, I mean, you're not going to go into AC/DC playing double bass.
No, of course. That's what I'm saying. There is a sound.
Playing blast
No,
beats.
there is a sound. There's a sound. But
so there's
thing,
5 or 6 grooves that are consistent across the board with that band and that genre kind of too. So you kind of already know what you're going to play on the record before you even play it. But it's when you get in there and you start working around the vocal or the guitar.
Yeah, like there's some drum fills that you do that I'm like, whoa. And sometimes I try not to watch you.
Snuck it in there.
Sometimes I try not to watch you because I try to just listen because you do things that look really good.
Well, live is totally different.
No, but you do things that look really good. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where I'm just like,
visuals.
Whoa, yeah, and I'm just like, and I get tricked sometimes where I'm like, was that a good drum part or was that like do you know what I mean? Like was that good or was that like
what is it? If you can't bedazzle them with brilliance, baffle them with bullshit. Look at me, I'll twirl some sticks.
But like, look, I played like soul and rockabilly for a long time, like when metal was at a really bad period. And when I came back to like classic metal with Night Demon, when I started Night Demon, I was so much better at metal because I was like, you know what? Now I know the note in every chord. I know every note. I know I have a more melodic sense. I can do something with this. Like, because I grew up in the school of Metallica where all I knew was the power chord and the chug and the speed pick. And then once I could branch out, then I was like, man, this is so much better to add these other musical elements into heavy metal, and there's so much more creativity there, you know what I mean? So like, is there ever a point where you're playing on a record with Accept where you might do something like just a little thing and then they'll go like, oh, that's great?
Yeah.
Okay.
A lot of times.
Okay. So there is something in there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, absolutely. And, especially working with Andy Sneap. Like, Sneap's great. The first record we did together, we didn't really know each other, and it's feeling each other out and, going, well, if that last take was great and the last 10 before that were great, why are we doing it again?
Right.
Because now I'm bored.
Yeah.
And now I'm getting kind of pissed off. And not realizing that Andy's saying everything's perfect and chances are we're going to use your first or second take.
Right.
But he wants to just, in the hopes of catching that magical thing, And now I get it, and now I know what he's going for and what he wants, as opposed to, he says it's great, but he doesn't mean play the exact same thing you played before. Of course not. He wants the same energy, but give me more of it and maybe go for something else. Stop playing it safe. Or you're playing a little too nuts, hone it in on this section, but then this rip.
Okay.
And it's great. And the other 2 studio albums that we did with Accept together were a blast.
Yeah.
It was just like, all right, cool.
Then you're in a groove.
We get each other. You know how I play. I know how you work. Let's do it.
Right.
Humanoid, I banged out 13 songs in 2 days.
Amazing.
Just went in, I had the material ahead of time. I transcribed the demos, so there wasn't going to be any guessing.
Right.
And was reading down. And then
so you're reading charts when you're playing?
I transcribed my own drum parts, yeah.
And are you sight reading while you're tracking?
Yeah.
Fuck.
Yeah. Because I can read number charts and jazz lead sheets and all that stuff, but I also read
That's insane.
rhythmic
man.
music and pitch music.
That's awesome.
So if we demo something and they love that, like that's what they're expecting the final drum part to be.
Right.
You know, but maybe it was just mixed as a demo, or maybe we did a demo on V-drums or something, whatever. But they love that part. I'll transcribe exactly what I did.
Right.
And then we'll go in and start from there.
Gotcha.
Because now they've heard this song forever while they've been writing and tweaking it and all that stuff. And I don't want to change it up too much because they're comfortable.
They're happy with that, right.
Now I've got to put myself and my stamp on it and put my voice into it.
Right.
And that's when the fun begins, working with Andy.
Right.
Because he's like, yeah, man, it was great. Give me something else. Go a bit nuts. Give me some more of this. Or I love that Tom fill, what you did there. You know, you followed the guitar part through the tom fill and played the melody back and up, or the cymbal
and
parts.
Now that you know that that's what the work's going to be like, the next time you go in, you're kind of prepared, because even if you have your charts, you still know, like, hey, maybe I can, even before going in, come up with some idea that's not so spontaneous, right? You know?
Yeah. And sometimes you get a demo with the vocal on it that's finished, and I'll ask right up front, I go, is that the final vocal, or is that the final vocal pattern?
Right.
And rhythm. Because maybe Mark's going to go, and I'm going to smack the bejesus out of a china and a snare on that. You know, just those little
accents,
extras and touches. You know, well, play that. You know, if the bass is going, that's the little stuff that starts to then build the tune.
Absolutely. Because it emphasizes that vocal part too, you know?
And then after the record's done and it comes time a year and a half later to start touring it, you know. Then I sit down and transcribe my own part again and relearn my song.
That's it.
And then live, you know, it starts just like the record, and then it's just going to evolve.
Right.
And it might be, you know, that drum fill that I love got cut from the record, so I'm going to play it live.
Yeah. That's cool, man. That's cool.
But I mean, it's an evolution. It's a constant thing, you know.
Right.
I play a lot of the stuff the exact same way I did 10 years ago, and then there's other stuff that has evolved and changed and grown. And you have to do that as a musician, or it becomes boring.
Very. Yeah.
It's super stale, and if you're doing that, just get a drum
But you know,
machine.
in a lot of metal, and especially in like Accept, you know, there's not a lot of improvisation, you know?
No.
And it's designed that way.
Well, yeah,
you know?
you can't.
Yeah.
It's especially, I mean,
and especially Wolf as a classical fan, where there's zero improvisation.
Nope.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Zero. Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, and I could not get on stage and do my gig after a couple beers. It wouldn't work. You know, this ain't AC/DC meat and potatoes.
Right.
Like, there's a lot of notes flying up there, and you better be on it.
Yeah.
But the cool thing too is, you know, when we get together, it's a damn machine.
Yeah.
And I gotta say that about that band, especially the current lineup. And even last summer when we had Joel with us, he was on his shit.
Yeah. Yeah. He's a good sub.
That dude would run our set every day. Every day. And he would show up and nail it.
Yeah.
Like he had been playing it for 10, 15 years.
Yeah.
Like, killed it.
That's amazing.
Consummate professional. Shout out to you, Joe Hoekstra.
Yeah. How did Elegant Weapons come about?
So
Through Andy?
No.
Through you being drunk watching Priest in the Barricade?
No, actually, Richie Faulkner and I have been friends since it was 2 nights before my 4th show with Accept.
Was he in Priest at the time? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was. Yeah.
He
okay.
joined in 2011, so we were playing Monsters of Rock in Sao Paulo, Brazil in 2015, in April of 2015. And we got there the night, but it was a 2-day festival. We were playing the second day. Priest was direct support both nights.
Wow.
The headliner the first night was Ozzy. Headliner the second night when we played was Kiss.
Right.
So
tough life.
Yeah, man. Tell me about it. So we get to the hotel, and once everybody's checked in, you know, all the bands are in the lobby and meeting friends and stuff. And Peter introduced me to Mickey D because Motorhead was playing the first night.
I remember he came to our show in Sweden.
Yeah.
We were toured together. Yeah, he drank all our beer that night. That was great.
Yep.
Yeah.
When we were there, not this past year, but the time before, the band, like one of the vans taking them back to the hotel for showers or whatever, he jumped in like with Wolf, just hammered. He's like, yeah, I'll ride with you. It's like, okay, I guess. I missed that because I'm still toweling off, waiting for the second shuttle. Mark and I always go later, but anyway. So meet Mickey. You know, Peter introduces us because they played with Dokken together.
Yeah, right,
back in the day. And walked up, met Scott Travis, all this stuff. Like I'm meeting all these people that I've looked up to, and our tour manager went outside for a smoke. So it was like, well, shit, all right, I don't smoke, but I'll come hang. I don't really know anybody else here. And there's this dude just hanging out in the corner that looks like Phil Schaus. And I walk up and introduce him. And I'm like, hey, man, I'm Christopher. Oh, right, I'm Richie. Nice to meet you, man. And I was like, hey, you look like my friend Phil. And he goes, oh, maybe Phil looks like me. I don't know.
Yeah, right.
Take a selfie, and I send it to Phil Schaus, and we're talking. And Phil immediately comes back, and he's like, holy shit, that's Richie Faulkner from Priest. And I go, oh, so you play with Priest. Cool, man.
Yeah.
And he goes, yeah, I'm the new guy 4 years ago, whatever it was.
Yeah.
I mean, and the night before, we had played with Priest. But for us, it was a quick out.
Right.
Because our flight. And so it was like, play the gig, run off stage straight. So I didn't even get to see him.
Right.
But he's like, yeah, man, sounded great. Da, da, da. And Travis said the same thing earlier. And it's just like, damn, cool, all right. And we swapped numbers and just hung out throughout the couple days. And over the years, just stayed in touch and became buds.
Really?
And just constantly, like, Spinal Text and Star Wars. That's the bulk
That's
of
amazing. Yeah.
And guitars.
Okay.
And so, yeah, we just became mates. But Elegant Weapons kind of started when he joined Priest in 2011, because he came in on what was called the Epitaph Tour and was supposed to be Priest's last tour.
Right.
They were hanging it up. They were done. And, you know, you get some new blood
That's
in there.
That's how it happens, dude. That's how it happens.
Completely changes it.
Yeah.
And Richie writes some killer music.
Right.
So it was like, well, we'll keep it going. But he and Scott always said, you know, well, when Priest is done, we'll have this band.
Right.
And they had been sending riffs and doing demos and stuff for years and years and years. And then during COVID, Richie was just kind of like, well, if I'm going to do it, this is the time.
Right.
Scott had bought a house here just outside of Nashville, but he's still got the house in Virginia.
So Scott Travis is here too.
Oh, yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's a ton. Dude, if I went down the list, it's dumb.
Yeah.
But, yeah, so during COVID, he was in Virginia and didn't want to risk anything or come down here. And Richie wanted to get these songs done. So he's like, hey, man, you know, do you want to just come in and play on this? It's Scott's gig, but you're 30 minutes away. And
wait, so Richie lives out here too?
Yeah.
What
he's
the fuck?
He's down in Murfreesboro.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
I missed the boat. All right.
But yeah, so he's, hey man, just, you know, come over to the studio and we'll just, here's the tunes. Just give them a listen for a week and we'll get in the room and, you know, just see what happens. Just play.
Right.
Okay, cool. And I was like, so, but what's happening with Scott, you know?
Right.
And well, it's his gig, and, but because, okay, cool. Well, fine. Because that's my buddy too, so I'm not trying to step on any toes.
Sure.
And did the tunes, and then Scott came in and heard them and was like, well, I mean, I'm not going to do anything different or better than that, and I think he maybe cut a couple tunes, but I think he stayed true to what I had done, and honestly, I don't know what's not me on there.
Yeah.
But that was it. It was, paid sessions.
Yeah.
2 weekends, paid sessions.
Yeah.
Cool. It says additional drums by Christopher Williams.
Uh-huh.
Cool. Awesome. Well, good luck with the band, brother, man.
Yeah.
Have a great time.
Yeah.
And then press was rolling and stuff, and I guess Scott just wasn't into it. Just didn't want to join an upstart band, if you can call it that. And,
well, I guess it's an all-star band is what it is.
Well, and Priest are always so damn busy, too.
Yeah.
Scott's a woodworker like me, so when he's not home, he likes to be in the shop.
Okay.
Like,
did not know that.
Can't blame him.
Right.
Oh, dude.
Yeah.
When he and I get together, we don't talk drums. We talk table saws and machinery and tools. He's like, man, how's that saw stop holding up? I'm like, well, I haven't chopped my finger off yet, but I activated the brake once, hit a piece of metal.
Yeah.
And like that's what we talk
Right.
about. And Norm Abram from New Yankee Workshop kind of nerded him.
Wow.
But and so then with that news and dates booked, Richie called me up and he's like, hey man, so we got some dates in Europe this summer. You want to join the band? And I was like, hell yeah. He's like, I mean, you already played on the songs.
Right.
So, because the demos became the album.
Right.
Which I'd never
So I got to ask
expected.
this, and you may not know this, and you may not even want to answer this, and it may be like a stupid question, but I would be, I feel weird not asking. Are these songs like based off of riffs that like Glenn Tipton said no?
No, it's completely different stuff. Because, so we have a new record that I think is pretty much in the can.
Okay.
I'm not sure at what stage, but I know Ronnie has already sang on it.
Okay.
Don't know when it's coming out, mixing, any of that, because of course everything revolves around Priest and Accept and all, and Heap and Ronnie Romero's schedule.
Is Sneap involved in this project?
Mixing, yeah.
Yeah, because he's mixing both your bands anyway. He's doing Priest and Accept anyway, so that's cool.
Yep. So, I don't know if or when, and that's literally all I can say about it.
Right. No, that's great though.
But
I mean, what a cool thing, right?
So
it
is coming.
Yeah.
People ask all the time, it's gonna happen.
Right.
But there's other stuff to focus on.
Oh yeah. Everybody's really busy right now,
But that's how that happened, was just going outside with the tour manager because he wanted to smoke, and meeting this dude that looked like Philip Schaus.
Again, it's like just, I tell people that all the time. It's like, just talk to people, man. Like, sometimes it's weird or whatever, but you just don't know.
Yeah.
You don't know who you're going to meet and who you're going to connect with.
Yeah.
Sometimes there's people that you want to connect with and you just don't. Like, for some reason, you're just different personalities, and that's okay too.
Yeah.
But just by talking to people, you never know who somebody is and what role they're gonna play in your life, and vice versa.
Absolutely.
So, but yeah, man, I'm stoked. It's good to see you again.
Likewise, brother.
And keep it going, and I hope we do something together again. That's very possible that may happen. So
hopefully so.
Thanks, dude.
Let's record.
I stand alone.
That was the title track off Humanoid, the latest Accept album. Christopher Williams on drums. He's a cool guy. It's a really cool, interesting interview. Hope you guys enjoyed that one. As always, I'll mention to check out nightdemon.net for info on everything Night Demon, tour dates, merch, news. Of course, the subscriber section full of hundreds of live audio files and unreleased tracks, all kinds of stuff. Check out nightdemon.net for more info. Until next week, this is Nesbitt signing off.
Thanks for listening to the Night Demon Heavy Metal Podcast. Head over to nightdemon.net, click on the subscriber tab, and sign up to access exclusive weekly bonus content. If you would like to donate to support the Night Demon Heavy Metal Podcast, you can do so through PayPal at paypal.me/nightdemonmetal. Additionally, if you have not already done so, please subscribe, like, rate, and review the show on iTunes or wherever you listen to podcasts.
All hail, Night Demon Heavy Metal Podcast listeners. This is Dusty Squires chiming in to tell you about my brand new signature sticks from the London Drumstick Company. I've dreamt of having my very own drumsticks ever since I was a wee lad, and LDC made that a possibility for me. Founded in 2016 in London, England, the birthplace of heavy metal, the London Drumstick Company has trailblazed a path through the music industry and taken the drummer world by storm. When I met them for the first time, they knew their product was going to withstand the beatings of a Night Demon show. They took the time to work with me on getting everything just right. The balance and weight of my sticks are the same no matter what, and the durability is bar none the best I've ever had. I know my sticks will last through the set night after night. I'm truly honored to work with a company that caters to their players the way LDC does. Their innovation and attention to detail is what separates them from the rest of the stick makers out there. Their custom stick sleeves are unbelievable and really make the entire presentation complete. Wait until you see the design they came up with for me. It blew my mind and was a surprise to say the least. They have all kinds of amazing swag, including hoodies, t-shirts, drummer shorts, drum keys, stick bags, towels, face masks, practice pads, and much, much more. Even if you're not a drummer, you can be a part of Demon history and order my brand new signature sticks direct from their website. How cool is that? And to top it off, the London Drumstick Company are giving an exclusive offer to the Night Demon Heavy Metal Podcast listeners. Go to londondrumsticks.co.uk and receive a 15% store-wide discount using promo code DEMONSTICKS. All capital letters, no spaces, Demon Sticks. DEMONSTICKS. I can't thank everyone there enough for the opportunity to be a part of their family and for them trusting me with their amazing products. See you metal maniacs on the road very soon. And yes, the wood chips will be flying.
Greetings, boils and ghouls. This is your comrade, the Crypt Keeper here, reporting dead from the sanctuary of the strange. Tonight's macabre myth is a fright-filled feature, one overflowing with monsters, madness, and magic.
visit our website at monstersmadnessandmagic.com to stay up to date on all the dark dealings within the sanctuary of the strange. Enjoy the show.
Hey Metalheads, I'm Mark and I host the Metal Forge. Let me tell you about the show. The Metal Forge features the best underground metal from all over the world. We spend every week with a different artist with interviews, in-depth conversations, and most of all, the music. We also feature audience interactivity where you can submit your questions to the upcoming guests. New episodes are out every Friday at noon Eastern Time at metalforgeradio.com or wherever you listen to your podcasts.
Want to know what's going on in the world of music? Then tune in to the Nothing Shocking Podcast, a non-genre based, all ages friendly rock and roll program. Join us weekly for interviews with all your favorite rock stars from the mainstream to the underground. You can find us at nothingshocking.libsyn.com or anywhere you download podcasts.
Okay, metalheads, you've been complaining that there has not been a channel that plays all of the heavy metal videos from past, present, and future for years and years at this point. Well, that time is over. Heavy Metal Television is back. HeavyMetalTelevision.net is the website. Go there. You can see videos playing 24/7, 365, all the time, all the best from the old school, the new school, and everything in between. Check it out, HeavyMetalTelevision.net. It is where the metal is.